Well, what about kids that are like early elementary school that are just really rowdy and aggressive, and they hit, they yell, they scream, they throw tantrums. They're basically out of control. I've heard some parents describe these kids as feral. This is what we're going to talk about today. So I recently got back from a training, a recertification that I do with Handle with Care, which is a behavior management system that our company uses for our in-home workers to know how to safely deal with aggressive kids. Because a lot of people will tell me that there are other providers that come into the home as soon as the kids are aggressive, throwing things, hitting, biting, all of those kind of things, that some providers are just like, I can't handle this and I don't know what to do. And I think that's really sad when we know what we're working with. We're working with kids with severe behavior issues, emotional issues, autism, any kind of neurodivergent. A lot of times you'll see this come up in kids that they don't know how to regulate. And so this happens at all ages. Personally, after years and years of doing this, I really appreciate it when parents do call us when their kids are younger, and we can work on these things with younger kids. It's a little bit different than how we work with them when they're older. But I'm happy to help with kids of all ages. And I've seen just as much success in helping kids to learn how to regulate, whether they're in their middle school years or their teen years, high school years, and helping you as the parents with that. So you can apply this to a lot of the things we're going to talk about today. You can apply to anybody in your family, including yourself. Hopefully you learn some things here too, because that's the other thing that I hear a lot is that not only is their child squirrely, it's like, oh, I was the same way when I was a kid. So these skills are really important skills for all humans to learn, and I think it's kind of our endeavor, right? Like, I find that my interpersonal skills, my communication, even when I go to a training like this with Handle with Care, I learn things, for myself, for the people in my day-to-day life, how to handle conflicts, things like that. So if you are a parent of a child that has autism and has extreme behaviors, you might want to look into Handle with Care. I know they have a parent component that they will do training with. In our program that we do here with Healthy Foundations and in the parent coaching, I can help you with some of those skills and some of those things, but I cannot help you physically deal with those things unless you're doing our program where I come into the home and help you with that. So what we're going to talk about today is a lot of the regulation piece and how we help these kids in that way. So one of the primary philosophies that we adhere to from Handle with Care is that there is no dignity in allowing a child to hurt himself or hurt someone else. And so even though your child may be 2 or 3 or 4, whatever age it is, I think the hitting, biting, kicking, lashing out behaviors towards their siblings, towards you as the parent, and kids that harm themselves, like head banging, things like that, like, just keep in mind there's no dignity in allowing that to continue. I don't see anything good that comes from just thinking they're going to outgrow that. Like, I know some kids go through hitting stages or biting stages, but we have to help them not just to go through it and be like, oh, okay, I guess they're not going to do that anymore, because if they are stressed or whatever, like, that behavior is going to keep coming up over and over. So we have to learn how to help the child through that. I also believe that kids really have to be protected from the consequences of their behaviors, especially when there's other things going on inside of their brains. So it's one thing to say, like, oh, you hit me, but you just wait, you get bigger and you do that, somebody else is going to hurt you, or you're going to go to jail or whatever. It's our job as parents to help our kids to work through, not to keep them from avoiding consequences, but to help them to work through things so that we're protecting them from consequences of how their brain is wired, and yet how we have to help to intervene in that. I also believe that that kids know the difference of when we're doing something to them and for them, even though they might not recognize in the moment. And so this work that we're going to do, if you are being coached by me, if you're taking our program, like, you're going to get the help to know what to do to help your child. Your child's not going to appreciate that right now. They whatever is happening they believe is working for them, hitting, lashing out, screaming, tantruming, excessive, behaviors. It may not be getting them anything, but they don't know that yet. But as we start to apply these therapeutic measures to help them to regulate, and it really is the skillful application, of using these tools, and you need help to do that. If you have a child that is, out of control, basically, some parents have described it as feral. If they're screaming, hitting, yelling, tantrums that are lasting forever, any kind of meltdown, anytime they don't get what they want, very much like what you would expect from 18 months to 2.5 years old. Now you're having that with your 6, 7, 8, 9, it goes on and on, year old. Then you actually need help as a parent. Like, this is very challenging, and you need support as a parent. You need that. So please, look at parentingchallengingkids.com. Look at our playroom where we can do some coaching, and you can see, you can get some help right away on issues that you're having, but also you can look and see if you need a more intensive 12-week program to really get things back on track. If you're feeling like, wow, this is crazy, and what's it going to be like when they're a teenager? Like, don't wait. Please don't wait. It doesn't get better on its own. Our kids, especially our neurodivergent kids, our kids that are wired differently, that are a little bit squirrely, they need additional help and support, and they need it from you as the parent. If they can get it from you as the parent, the other things are going to get better, even if you don't have the best school system. Or even if you do, if you have a great school system, but you're still having these problems at home, like, we want you to experience that it can be better at home. So please look at what we have to offer, and utilize the services that we have, because really, like, you as the parent need this kind of support in order to be able to effectively and skillfully intervene. You need that help at home. So one of the things that we teach is, and I have this in my book, Parenting Emotionally Distressed Kids, is the mountain of escalation. And it talks about the different levels that kids are at and how they escalate. And really it's tension. It's actually a tension cycle kind of with kids. And kids have different ways of diffusing that tension. And sometimes they go all the way up to the top to diffuse it. Sometimes you'll see kids trying to diffuse it at these lower levels. And our goal is to help you to know how to reduce that tension. I have a lot of kids, really young kids that I work with, that have anxiety, and they've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety along with ADHD or autism or whatever else, and not far behind that is going to be oppositional defiance and conduct disorders, because they all kind of go hand in hand because of the amount of tension these kids are carrying in their bodies and not knowing how to regulate their behaviors, their moods, their thoughts, all of that. And so this is the kind of work that I want to help you as a parent be able to do. And it may be that you need that, because I work with a lot of parents that have not only PTSD from the stuff that's happened with their kids, but they have a lot of tension and anxiety inside themselves. And so, there's some things that we can do to help our kids. And the really, really awesome thing I think about regulation skills that we teach is we're going to teach you how to co-regulate with your child, which means that you're going to learn how to regulate and you're going to be helping your child regulate. So instead of you having your coping skills and your child having coping skills that you may or may not even know how to help them with, you're going to learn coping skills together. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, some of those coping skills. So, some of this starts with limit setting and being really clear and knowing what you're going to allow and what you're not going to allow. So just know that you're going to have to be really clear and really direct, and a lot of lecturing and talking and explaining and moralizing is not going to help your child to understand, especially the younger they are, and they can be very young emotionally, even if they're 9 or 10. And they can argue with you and sound like they're getting all of it, but a lot of times they're not. So you're presenting early in the cycle when there's less tension, you're presenting clear choices to the client, positive and constructive choices that have positive outcomes. So you're not saying, if you do this, you're going to get in trouble. You're saying you can do this or you can do this. And you're not leaving open-ended choices. That creates more anxiety in our kids when we have open-ended choices. So you're going to be very, very clear, and you're not going to give a lot of explanations. Even if the child is saying, why can't I have this one? I said you could have a banana, or you can have a granola bar. Why can't I have yogurt or whatever? And if you're always negotiating with your young child, like, it never stops. So if those were the two choices, it's like, these are the two choices for today. We'll have other choices later today, but these are the two choices now. They have a big meltdown because they don't want to make those choices. It's okay. It's like, oh, okay, well, we'll get calm and then you can make a choice. Or maybe we just skip snack time today. So just stay calm. Don't feel like you have to explain, and don't feel like you have to answer, because, and this is where I think a lot of parents get tripped up, because the thing that the child is saying is like, who would deny their child another healthy choice, right? Like, well, I wanted yogurt. But just know that that ability to constantly change the boundaries is what causes all of us to kind of feel anxious. Like, nobody's really in charge if everything can kind of always change. If it's always up to the child about what they have for dinner, what they have for snack, what they're going to wear to go play, what they're going to wear to go to school. And I'm not talking about micromanaging, but I'm just saying having some clear boundaries about, and teaching, these are play clothes, these are school clothes, and you can choose anything from this drawer today. It's fine. That's not micromanaging. It's teaching that there's an overall like comfort in knowing that somebody's got this, and that it's not all up to this 4-year-old or 5-year-old to make all these decisions. We put our kids kind of on the equal planes when we talk about things in front of them that they don't need to know. Like I work with families that have kids of all different ages, and had a parent recently come back from dropping their child off at a day camp, and the first thing she said with all the kids there was, oh, there was a bully there. It's like, what does that do for everybody else? And the other kids wanted to know, well, who was the bully, and what was his name, and what did he do, and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, these are conversations that don't need to happen, that just create more anxiety for everyone else. So be careful, be the solid object, be clear and concise. There's other things you can talk to that specific child about, that they can express that, like, if they want to talk about, like, there was this kid that wasn't very nice, and you can talk about that. You can still connect with your kids. It's just, you just have to really watch, what we're saying and how we're reacting. So being really clear, and then being really consistent. Like I said, don't keep moving the line. It's like, we're going to play this game or this game, and then they want to play a different game. It's like, okay, We might be able to play that game later. I'll write it down here. But today, right now, we're going to do this one or this one. And if they can't choose, then you can say, oh, you're having a hard time choosing, so I'm going to choose. Don't keep moving the boundaries. Like, oh, you didn't want to play a game, you want to do Legos. Okay, well, yeah, I guess Legos is good. Let's do Legos instead. You know, when you're trying to establish some things and some routine and some consistency, that's not the time to always be negotiating. So watch how much you are in the kind of that negotiation. And yes, you may have meltdowns because you're not negotiating, but you know what? You're probably having a lot of meltdowns anyway, because there's some things that are non-negotiable. And so you're having these big meltdowns about those kind of things, where you could have these little meltdowns in the moment and deal with it and move on. And maybe we don't get a game played, but we also dealt with it. And so the next time when it happens, they're going to be like, they know that's the way it's going to be. It's going to be this way or that way. So just, really watch that. The other thing is that really make sure that in your limit setting or in your things that you're telling your child, that it's enforceable. So if I'm yelling after a child to, come back or to stop doing something, and I'm not right there to help them to move away from that, or to come with me, or to stop, whatever they're doing, to redirect to something I do want them to do, then I'm just saying things that are non-enforceable. And it may seem like a small thing, and maybe at first, or maybe sometimes when you reach a certain pitch, your kids do listen to that. We want them to listen to that. Like if they're running out in the street and you yell, "No, stop," we want that to mean something. But if you're doing that all day long about everything, like they say something rude and it's like, stop it, don't talk like that, don't do this, don't, all this kind of stuff, they tune you out and they're not listening. And then it's not going to be very much longer. And guess what? They have oppositional defiance, and we can help with that. It's not that oppositional defiance isn't real. It is real. It's just, it's part of your relationship with your child. And so we want to help with this. So remember that you have to, it's not that you're verbalizing the consequences, like yelling after them, like don't run away from me, or we're gonna, you're gonna get in trouble or whatever. It's going to the child, making sure that you are able to set those boundaries. And I find it's very difficult to get somebody to stop doing something. It's much easier to get them to do what it is that you want them to do. So think about that. What is it I want my child to do? Okay, I don't want them to be rude. What would I like them to do? Like I'll walk into a house and I'll say hello to everybody, and the child might even say something snarky or just ignore me, and the parent will say, "Don't be rude." It's like, okay, well, what did you want them to say? When someone comes into the house, I would like you to say hello. Please say hello. And so then you have them say hello. If they refuse to say hello, that's okay. We can't force them, but we've given them direction on what you would like them to do. So be really careful also about if you're making a demand, or whether you're saying I would like you to say thank you. And sometimes we have to wait, because sometimes that's the only way we can enforce something is wait. Okay, I'm going to wait until you say thank you, and then I'm going to hand it to you. So you're teaching these, really basic skills. And I think we just get in a hurry in our society, so we forgot about teaching these kind of basic skills. And some kids learn it really easy. They learn these skills at 2 years old. Some kids are really polite other places. They're just not polite at home. So I know they know these skills, but at home we have to slow things down, make sure we're teaching these basic skills, make sure it's enforceable, and that we're not just using words like be respectful or don't be rude, or, what does that look like? I use a lot of use kind words. What's something kind you could say right now? So a lot of positive, like moving towards something. So the last thing that I want to talk about today, and we'll there will be other episodes on more of this, of working with kids that are, really rowdy and aggressive and all of that, is just really knowing that you as the parent, you can pause, you have to be the solid object. And so if you're finding yourself reacting a lot, which a lot of that, no, stop, don't, stuff comes from your fears, right? And sometimes it's the fear of what everybody else is thinking. I have parents that tell me like, I can't practice this stuff in public because I'm just, if other people, like, what happens if they have a tantrum at the store? And I'm like, okay, well, what happens if they have a tantrum at the store? Likely that they already have at some time anyway. Everybody's judging me. So then you start feeling like you have to do something, or and it's like, okay, but so then know what you're going to do. You're going to feel a lot more solid if you know how you're going to handle it. If everything is kind of open-ended choices, if everything is kind of negotiable, you're never going to feel like what you're going to do about it. If I know what we're having for dinner and that's what I'm making, and I know what the alternate choice is, if you don't want to eat it, you can make yourself a peanut butter sandwich. I'm fine. I'm not going to be anxious about dinner, and I'm not going to be telling them like, well, you need to eat this, and if you don't eat a vegetable, then you're not going to be healthy, and if you're not healthy, then this is going to happen. If you only eat this, then this, it's like none of that matters. It's just I can be calm and cool and collected. So this is where I really like to help parents as a parent coach, is if I can help you to feel solid and confident and calm, then it really helps. And it's so much different. Like, we use this mantra a lot that parents are in charge. I want you to be in charge. But if you're feeling like you have to tell your kids, hey, listen to me, I'm in charge, you're not. Like, this is a quiet confidence of like, I've got this. I know how I'm going to handle it. Even if on the inside you're like, I don't know if this is going to work. Or you're thinking, I'm texting Michelle as soon as this is over, about how do I do this? Then that's okay. But in the moment, like, just know what your course of action is. And again, if you have kids that are constantly pushing at these boundaries, that have a fit every time you set a limit, every time you deny them, or something that they want, or anytime that they a request is made of them, and it's not that you're being demanding, but you just make a request and now you're worried that they have demand avoidance disorder, which they might, and you need some help how to come around that, because we can't live our lives without anybody ever expecting anything of us. So these are all skills that are really important to healthy family and personal functioning, and to help our kids to have autonomy and to be self-reliant. So, just really think about these things today. Play this over if you need to, because there's a lot of really important things in this episode that we talked about, and just being consistent and clear, and seeing yourself as the solid object, and having, I think that creates more calmness in us as the parents. And knowing that you don't have to have all of the answers, you definitely can have support around you to do that. I want to just, again, thank you for listening, and also remind you to go to parentingchallengingkids.com. You can also find a lot of this information that I'm talking about in my book, Parenting Emotionally Distressed Kids. You can find that on Amazon, or order it from wherever you get books from. And if you need more help, which if you have kids like what we've been talking about, you need more help. I'm just telling you, it's not going to get better on its own, and you as a parent need as much support as you're willing to get for your kids. I get that you want services for your kids, and you want them to have counseling and all of the things to help them, but you as a parent need support as well. So look us up at parentingchallengingkids.com. Join us in the playroom and get help every single week on these issues.